So, we meet again. You guys really think that I forgot about the time that I reviewed this movie in September of 2016? Well, I didn't, and my opinions changed even more every time I see this movie. Even though I became a brony months before this movie premiered, it still won't change my opinions. Anyway, if there's one thing I can say about this movie that I didn't in my overview, is that this is probably the first time ever that Equestria Girls it's being its own thing for real. Because in the last movie, it's just basically school versus school and they're still in Canterlot High. However, since they're in a different location and it's going to be completely different unlike Everfree Forest from Equestria, I think you can see what this movie is trying to do, but I'll get to that later. The plot begins with the main characters going to Camp Everfree Forest. I still have an issue with this in my overview that they just started this movie by going to Camp Everfree immediately, but at the same time, at least we can get to go somewhere different, unlike schools. And during the entire trip, Human Twilight tries to fit in, but at the same time she's paranoid because of the magic that happened in the past. Yeah, when I first watched this movie, I didn't notice that Midnight Sparkle was about to make a return, even though we saw the sneak peeks and previews before the movie premiered. And during some of the majority of the movie, Human Twilight gets some interaction with Timber and they have a relationship. One of my favorite ships in this movie, even if people completely despise this ship. When Sunset Shimmer and Human Twilight notice that the magic is surrounding in Everfree Forest, Twilight was about to freak out, but Sunset thinks that this is a good thing. But Twilight completely disagrees with her. Glossio Daisy, while being nice in front of the students in Canterlot High, is hiding something. Obviously, because those around her neck. I still have my opinions that magic are drugs in Equestria Girls, and my opinion still stays the same, even though that this movie gave me the thinking about it, but it completely made it obvious in mere magic. During the majority of the movie, the other characters get superpowers. And this is probably one of the reasons why this movie is becoming more original in Equestria Girls. And that's why I'm going to stop the story right here, because there's really nothing to explain. Just to get this whole thing out of the way, I'm just going to talk about the part where Twilight embraces her magic. Now back then, I kind of liked this, but at the same time, I'm just disappointed. Obviously because of you know what. I know you guys aren't going to agree with me on this, but I'm not into the relationship between Human Twilight and Sunset Shimmer. Sure, the two were in the wrong in the last movie. However, in this movie, it's just basically Sunset Shimmer being like Princess Twilight in this movie. And while yes, she has gotten better and better, but at the same time, it just feels like it's just basically a copy of Princess Twilight, which is probably one of the reasons why I found this relationship kind of weak to me. Sure, they helped her at the end, but at the same time, Human Twilight's development in this is just kind of rushed. What I mean by that? While sure, she's able to embrace her magic, but at the same time, it was way too early for that. The last movie, she made her actual appearance, and in this movie, she just basically fulfilled her goal. And that's it. And this is the reason why Princess Twilight is better than her ever since months after months I watched the show after this movie. Human Twilight's paranoid personality is one of the reasons why I enjoyed her character. And even though that she is kind of like that after this movie, this one feels like the most important since that she doesn't know everything about friendship until after this movie. And it's kind of disappointing that she's able to handle this all because of Sunset Shimmer. And even though that Sunset Shimmer went through the exact same things that Human Twilight did, I still found this completely rushed. If this actually happened in the next movie with Princess Twilight in it, I would probably understand the relationship between Sunset Shimmer and Human Twilight. Yes, the writers who wrote this movie really want to put more development on Sunset Shimmer, but at the same time, it could have been a good opportunity to have Princess Twilight be in some involvement in this movie while also hiding from the students in Canterlot High. You honestly think that I wanted both Twilights out in the open in Everfree Forest? then you clearly have no idea what I've been thinking before this movie premiered. Okay, let's get into Flash's tough love in this. It's also watched and completely thrown out the window. Now, I can understand that Princess Twilight and Flash Century can't be together due to them being in separate worlds, but at the same time, ending off with no resolution, and what I mean by that is for Princess Twilight, just feels completely wrong. Now, in Twilight's Sleepover Surprise, which takes place between Friendship Games and this movie, Twilight completely had her face felt. She was disappointed. But at the same time, she didn't say anything after that except that she just goes back to her world. She's just disappointed with no explanation. She's just really concerned about her princess duties in Equestria than actually staying focused on Flash Century. And besides, having this completely continue without Princess Twilight not getting a reaction after all this, especially after this movie, just feels completely wrong. And it's still upsetting that in Forgotten Friendship, she didn't even explain about her feelings towards Flash Century. People may hate this, but this is pretty much one of the reasons why I found this shipping completely confusing. When it's just completely ends automatically with no resolution. People still ship this, whether people hate it or not. And just to get this out of the way, the shipping between him and Sunset Shimmer in this movie is okay. Even though I wish it could have been more development other than the music song, but at the same time, hopefully Flash Century will get an episode involving himself and his feelings towards Twilight. I'm not a shipper, but at the same time, this ship deserves respect for the most part. Let's get to Glossio Daisy in this movie. Of course, she gets corrupted by magic and she does whatever it takes to make Camp Everfree the best camp ever. She's just basically a character doing things, and that's it. Although she isn't hateable, but at the same time, her getting corrupted by magic is starting to become a redundant thing now. And since that we don't get to see much of her character after this, it just feels like she's just there for plot convenience. I don't hate her, but at the same time, she's just there and that's it. However, with her brother, has a lot of screen time up because he's hanging out with Twilight in the majority of this movie. Well, not really the majority, but you get what I mean. Anyway, like I said, Human Twilight and Timber Sprites is probably one of my favorite ships in this spin-off series, whether people hate it. Those scenes being together when Human Twilight wants to calm down is probably one of my favorite things to see in this movie. Because Twilight just wants to get away with this magic thing and just wants to move on from it, even though that she needs to embrace it at the end. I really got nothing else to say about this. I know it's not a lot, but at the same time, they at least know what to do with Timber unlike Flash Century, even though the people will still hate Timber nonetheless. Anyway, let's talk about the songs. Now in the first movie they did a remix. Now in the second movie they had a Battle of the Bands theme, and in the third movie they had a marching band theme. However, in this, it's just basically a camp theme, which is kind of a unique idea. It's a sweet solo to listen to. And as much as I don't like the idea of the campers completely going to camp immediately, I still like the song nonetheless. And as for the environment of Camp Everfree, I kind of like it, especially the Crystal Cave. I just want to get that out of the way right now. Midnight in Me is almost perfect. Now in my old review, I was complaining that this song was less than 2 minutes, but at the same time, most of the songs in not only Equestria Girls, but in My Little Pony in general had shorter songs, so I can't really complain about that. Now when I say that this song is almost perfect, is that I thought that Princess Twilight should be with Human Twilight, so it can probably work out with the development in my view. Yeah, it's kind of confusing, and at the same time, it's awkward to see Princess Twilight hiding from the other campers. But the lyrics and the choreography in this song is just brilliant. Trust me, after this, I don't think the interactions between these two can get any better, which is kind of sad. Embrace the Magic is one of the major reasons why Sunset Shimmer's development has gone stronger and stronger. Especially that the fact that this is probably one of the most interesting songs in not only in this movie, but in the Equestria Girls in general, especially that they need to embrace what they have, especially Human Twilight. It's still one of my favorite songs in this movie, and it's still, even to this day, despite my opinions change on Equestria Girls. The Guy Everfree song, sorry I forgot about the name, is still boring. I did set this in my overview, and I'm still saying that it's still boring even to this day. The fact that Glorioso Daisy is still predictable doesn't change my opinions whatsoever. And even though that some of the choreography in this is kind of good, but at the same time I can't enjoy it. And as for Guy Everfree, I do like her backstory, but at the same time, her getting reborn is just still predictable due to the magic being drugs thing. And even though the design is kind of cool, better than the other demon designs, it's still kind of disappointing that we get to see this again. Legend What You Meant to Be is a very decent song, and I kind of enjoy it for what it is. The fact that the girls are still helping, even with the mistakes Gloria did, is actually kind of cool. And as for the Crystal Cave that they did inside, I still love the Crystal Cave even to this day. And as for the final song, Hope Shine Eternally, I did say that it kind of reminds me that I have to wait a full year for another Equestria Girls film, even though it came out in May. I still think it's kind of an enjoyable way to end off this movie. Even though it's really disappointing that this is the final Equestria Girls movie, even if this is still the latest, and I do not qualify Forgotten Friendship as the movie because it's a 1 hour special. If there's one thing that I need to talk about on how this movie is completely original, is the powers that the main characters get. Now, in the show, they kind of got powers to begin with, but at the same time, they have abilities. However, in Equestria Girls in this movie, they actually did something different and actually know what to do. Since they have those geodoids, I think that's what they call around their necks, they're able to have supernatural powers. Unlike in the show when they kind of have abilities to begin with, here they need to get those abilities, which is probably one of the major factors onto why Equestria Girls is being its own thing. While I do like the abilities, specifically Rainbow Dash being like Sonic the Hedgehog, just wanted to throw that in there, I really think that the idea that they did is pretty brilliant for what it is. And that's all I have to say about Legend of Everfree. What do I say about this movie? Despite the issues I have, there's always a half that kind of makes it worth it for the most part. Now, looking at this movie right now, it's a little better than what I remember it. For one thing, I can understand why people consider this the second best Equestria Girls movie, for being original and being kind of unique. And as for the problems I said earlier, it's probably one of the reasons why people like this movie, even though it just doesn't work for me. I'm just trying to be as nice as possible with this movie, considering that this is actually the first time I watch an Equestria Girls movie premiered daily, since I never became a brony before 2016. Now the question is, will I ever go back to all these movies? In my trust video, I'm going to explain everything. I give this movie a 7.2 out of 10. This movie is a little better than I remember it, but I don't think I can go back to it anytime soon. Now before I get into my trust video, I'm not done yet. I'm going to review the digital shorts. And even though that everything isn't complete, I'm still going to give my full opinions on that, since I have it ever since it began in November of 2017.